Hello, everyone. I hope that you're enjoying the conference. This is my favorite conference all of over the world. So we're here to talk about how to sprinkle your Devops platform with some product thinking. But let's introduce ourselves first. Is that working?
Clicker not working.
Awkward silence. Come on, you can do it, laptop.
I hear
Don't
you.
die. Cool. So I'm Javier Turegano. I'm one of the co-organizers of the Devops Represent community. I'm very happy to have some of the members coming today and attending the conference. Thank you, REA, for the tickets and sponsoring the tickets. I'm currently enjoying a career break, so not working at the moment. But before that, I work as director of engineering at Slack. At Slack, we build Bedrock. That was the code name of our internal platform. You should always have a name for your platform. And that was a platform that will extract the complexities of Slack's global, highly reliable, highly secure, highly compliant, all of those things, complex infrastructure. It will provide things like CI/CD, and will provide container packaging and deployment. Will provide things like service discovery, an encrypted service mesh, and also management of secrets. So you only have one file, this YAML file that every developer can put in the repository and will help them drive the complexities of the infrastructure of Slack. Prior to that, I worked at the REA Group, realestate.com.au, as executive manager of platform and architecture. At REA, we built another different platform, this time codenamed Collab. Different concept. This was a set of tech building blocks that you could use in order to build your services. The main idea is developers can focus on building solutions for consumers and customers. Some of those included things like a centralized user repository, things like another Docker deployment tool, and also a very revolutionary service catalog in the shape of a map. That was pretty cool. At REA, I had the luxury of working alongside Leoren. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, so thank you, Javier. So hey, everybody, my name is Leoren, and as Javier mentioned, I did work at REA Group with him back when I was over there. I had a little bit of participation on Collab as well as I was leaving. At the moment, I work for West Farmers One Digital, where I'm a part of a team that looks after our internal development tooling called CloudKit. Essentially, CloudKit is built using CDK with TypeScript, and we provide a bunch of constructs for our developers to consume so that they can deploy their applications on the cloud. I'll talk a little bit more about CloudKit later on, but previous to that, I did work for Australia Post as well, where I was a part of a central platform team that looked after a bunch of platform and deployers that our developers consume so that they can deploy and host their applications online. And that's me. So with that, I'm going to pass it over back to Javier to talk to you exactly about what we mean when we say the word platform.
Yeah, what the hell is this platform thing that we're talking about? You're probably sick of hearing talking about platform engineering and products, but we're going to go one more time. My favorite definition comes from Evan Bocher. I'm not going to try to imitate Evan's calm voice with a Spanish accent. That's going to be terrible. So I'm going to try to unpack his definition here. So he goes with a platform is a foundation of self-service APIs, tools, service, knowledge, and support. One thing that I love about the definition is that the platform is not just one thing. It's not like the shape that you will imagine a platform. There's a lot of things that could constitute that platform. And there can be multiple platforms, not just that single one. And then he talks about how it's arranged as a compelling internal product. I like two words of that part, which is compelling, as something that people want to use, and a product, which is the way that you are thinking about your platform in that way, and it's going to be the core of this talk. There's a book, Team Topologies. I'm going to write Team Topologies. Some folks familiar with the concept. So in this book, they came with the idea of different shapes or different types of teams. You have your stream-aligned teams. These are your normal feature teams, or your product teams that are creating value for your customers, so go end-to-end. And there's other types of teams that help these teams deliver value to customers. There's enabling teams that will maybe come and support you in doing something. Security can be an example of an enabling team, even if sometimes it's look the other way around. You have your complicated subsystem teams, people that help you run a part of the system that is really complex and requires specific knowledge. So you will find a lot of specialists in those type of teams. And finally, you find your platform team or your platform teams. You have many of those. So those are creating products to make all of these teams more effective. So according to the book, the platform team mission is to provide this compelling internal product, again, similar definition, probably they piggyback on each other, to accelerate the delivery by streamlined teams. So this concept of like, they're going to help us go fast. But who is using or building internal platforms? There's like a myriad of different companies working on this. We've heard it all through the conference. And I think the good part about our talk is how we're going to talk to you about how different companies that we work with attempt to create these platforms. One of the things I really like about platform engineer is as your company scales and gets bigger and you're helping more and more teams, that support that you're providing, that platform that you're creating is increasing its value. So it's more valuable as you grow. But platform engineering is not new. You're probably familiar with the ThoughtWorks radar that tracks technology trends that ThoughtWorks around the world find in their customers. First appearance of platform engineering in the radar was in 2017 on the assess category. So this is something new, it's coming in. Moved to trial in 2020, and then 2021 went to adopt. Interestingly, they then went with a caveat. They saw this tendency of not creating product teams, but just bundling everything that is unwanted, everything that nobody owns, and then put it in one team, and you call it platform engineering, and there you go. And that's your product, right? All of those unwanted things that nobody wants. So they advise against that trend. And interestingly, in 2022, they came up with this concept of incremental development platform. This idea of you don't need to boil the ocean. If you're starting a new product, if you're starting a new platform, you don't need to get everything to start with. Maybe you can get an API, some humans behind that API, or you can like test things before you kind of build the whole platform. Recently, Adrian Cockcroft, who worked at Netflix and AWS, came up with an article that talks about platform engineering done right. That done right always like gets me a little bit nervous, but he did an amazing exercise of coming up with this worldly map. You come across worldly mapping, it helps you map your business or your products into a map. In the horizontal axis, we have how visible are those components. So, for example, your users or your products will be on the top part because people actually interact with them. At the bottom, we'll have things like data centers or containers, the things that people don't see or don't interact with. And then in the horizontal axis, we have the evolution of those. Are the things that are like really new and they're like we are inventing and nobody else is using? Are there things that are very particular to your product and your customers? Or are things that are a commodity? Are those things that are like in houses running water or electricity? And he did this exercise of mapping. I color in blue all the different platform teams that he came up with in this example. So he had a web platform team, a container platform team, a developer experience platform team, a data center platform team if you have, and then push a lot of the things to the like commodity space, which is I think an idealistic space to be in. So I performed a little bit of alchemy, and I tried to kind of create my own map. So the map is available; you can play with it, and it's a great exercise to do with your teams. So try to map the most recent experience I had at Slack and created my own version of the map, and also try to overlay it with some of the concepts from team topologies and color the different teams that we had in that way. Next slide. So you can see.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, one less. Thank you so much, Leoren. So in our case at Slack, there was a lot of things that were not treated as a commodity. You move a lot of the things to the left side. Sorry about that. And that was that in many cases due to our requirements in terms of reliance and the global nature of the business or our scale. We could not use some of the things that are already available. things that the cloud providers will provide and many companies could use, we'll have to build it ourselves. We decided to run our own databases instead of using something that came from the cloud provider, or we have our own traffic team and we will build our own edge regions. I'll color those two on orange, which is the complicated subsystem type of team. We also have a web platform team and our Bedrock platform team, the created internal platform, and an enable team that provide the developer experience for our developers. This is a great exercise. I will encourage you to go and have a crack at the map and to play with that. And so it's like the different platform teams that you can have in your organization. At the end of the day, a very important change in mentality is who are the customers or the partners. There's a very controversial distinction there of your platform. And those are the teams that are working with you. Your customers are engineers, and you need to understand what are their problems. I'm going to try to share some of the techniques that we use to do that later on. But why? Why are our companies building internal platforms, Leoren?
Yes, so why internal platforms? There's a few advantages on why you might have internal platforms within your organization, and here are just some of them. So the first one is to reduce cognitive load. So I think yesterday's keynote touched on a little bit about this already. But essentially, if you have a platform within your organizations, your developers no longer need to work out how their stack is going to work from top to bottom. A lot of those thinkings will already be done for you. Also, another thing that I've noticed in every organization that I've been to is that you get these multiple development teams trying to solve the same problem in a variety of ways. This actually touches onto the second point as well, which is to reduce duplication. So if a team has already solved that problem for you, so a platform team has already built out the platform for you, why not leverage what's already there and then focus your team's attention into solving other problems? And then when you get everybody using this platform within your organization, you kind of create this standardization across different teams. So everybody's using the same thing, we all get familiar with it, we all speak that same language. Having a platform also increases developer efficiency. So what this means is that your developer no longer needs to worry about what's happening under the hood. They can just focus on developing their applications, and then they'll be able to release to production faster. Another area in that as well is that, for example, you have a developer that needs to move from one team to another. If you have this standardization in place in your company, that developer would easily be able to transition into that new team because they'll most likely be familiar with that new team's tech stack because everybody's using the same thing. Again, that same language. Next one is increasing reliability. So if you have a platform team who's solely dedicated to building out this platform for you, you'll be rest assured that it's going to be reliable, right? It will be built with basic security practices in mind. It can also include any compliance requirements that your organization might need. So your development teams no longer need to think about that. Lastly, sustainable support model. So if everybody's using the same team, should you ever need the platform team's help into troubleshooting your application, it'll be easier for them to do so because it's going to be like a tooling that they're familiar with. With that as well, cross-development team collaboration and support will be easier because then again, we're all speaking that same language. But of course, with anything, there's a few pitfalls that you need to watch out for when you're building out platforms within your organization. So the first one, our keynote today touches on to this theme a lot, and it's having this mentality of build it and they'll come. So I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's done this. As engineers, we all have this kind of attitude where we're given a problem, and then sometimes we're so quick at trying to build out something to solve that problem. And in the process of doing so, we make a lot of assumptions. We don't talk to anybody, we just go ahead and build it, and then later on we ask ourselves, how come no one's using our thing? Definitely seen that before. The second one is focusing on the wrong type of users. So sometimes you might tend to overestimate or underestimate your customers' tech skills, making your product really hard to consume. And when your product is hard to consume, you're going to have a lot of trouble selling that product to your customers. which kind of leads to the third point as well, mandate. So you have to figure out ways on how you're going to sell this product within your organization. Sometimes you also become the captive market, which is not necessarily a good thing, because when you get to the stage where your bosses or your leaders is telling you you gotta use this product, you become the only option. And when you become the only option, you kind of eliminate this sense of having a competition. And sometimes when you don't have competition, there could be a tendency that the platform team might not try too hard on working on this platform anymore because you don't have a choice. So you always have to find that right balance. The next one is the platform team becomes a blocker. So as your customers adapt onto your product, they'll be so quick to recognize any bugs that exist in your product, right? They'll also be very quick at recognizing any features they wish your product would have. Then you'll end up with an overly large amount of backlog for the platform team to resolve. And sometimes this causes the platform team to be a blocker. So now this dev team is waiting for the platform team to fix the bugs before they can deploy to production. So this can become a problem, and definitely have seen that before. Next one is not catering for the advanced users. So with everything, with every product, it's always hard to cater for everybody. You always get these dev teams who would want your product to do more. So how much of this feature request are you willing to take? You don't want your product to grow too big as well, because then it becomes really hard to support. Again, watch out for that one. And then lastly, too much abstraction. So like I said, when you get to the stage where your developers no longer need to worry about the underlying tech stack, everything just works. It's like magic. They no longer understand what's going on under the hood. So this is sometimes could be a negative thing, because then the developers no longer understand how their applications exactly is being hosted, right? And then how will they support it? And then with that, we actually have some more product techniques for you to potentially avoid some of these pitfalls. So I'm going to pass it over back to Javier.
Thank you, Leoren. If you're working in a team that is treating your platform as a product, you will probably have a product manager. That may be a person that you hire with that title, or maybe someone that is wearing that hat. But it's very important to be very specific about having that person in your team. You may not have that someone available, and then you will have to build your expertise in that area to be able to kind of work in this fashion. If you're practicing product management, you will have conversations like the one I tried to portray in this image. We'll have the product manager having a conversation with the platform engineers about the roadmap. So what is the next feature that we're going to take? How can we prioritize that immense backlog that Leoren talked about before? And as we saw in the keynote today, you could think about the adoption lifecycle. Where are our users at? How do we know what they need? How do we get that adoption going forward? Or can we use a model like the Kano model to prioritize our features? What are the different product techniques that we can be using in order to be closer to our customers? So at the end of the day, is all about working closely with those customers. But we don't need to forget about other players in this space. We have our teams, which are our customers, as we said before. We have the platform engineers as your PM. But there's also probably an executive manager that you need to work with. So that person that is footing the bill, that is giving you the resources to build the platform. Make them part of the team that is building that platform. Make them participate. What were your functional areas? There's people like finance or security, compliance that will be very happy to work with you in building that roadmap and understanding what your platform should be looking like. One of the techniques that we used was user experience interviews. I really enjoyed this part. I really like sitting down with users. And we use this simple technique, Slack. Show us how you add a single line of code to your code base and then release it to production. Oh, you think that you know how they do that, right? And then they start, oh, well, yeah, I can do the deployment easily with your tools, but now I open this SSH tunnel to go to this database over here, and I'll build this data store that is only my laptop to do this other thing, and then you start to come up with all of that mess, and then you're like, oh, maybe our tool only solves a small percentage of their other problems. How can we increase that? Or how can we understand better how they're using the tool? It's mind-blowing. But maybe you don't have that expertise. Maybe you don't know how to conduct these user interviews. And that was us back at REA. So we were thinking about creating this developer experience team. We had a developer advocate, we had a product manager, and myself working in that. But how do we do a really good interview? So why not go in and figure out people in the business that are already doing that? REA already had people that are specialists in developer experience. Why not working with them? So we borrowed Rohan and asked him to work with us in defining that part. So that's a tip for you. You don't have a specialist in your side of the business. You can try to work with other people. So it's also a lot of fun. My second tip here will be get the platform's engineers to work with you in these interviews. Don't leave them aside. There's this tendency where the product manager will be like, I'll do the interviews, I'll get all the data, I'll massage it, and then pass it back to the engineers. That's a recipe for a disaster. There will be this disconnection between the users and then the people that are building the platform. One of the things that we use extensively were surveys. You can send them at regular basis and try to understand more about your users. The first thing that we will ask them is, how often have they been using the platform? We wanted to identify where those users were in the curve. We wanted to know how much experience they had. And then we could segment in the survey the responses based on their experience. And we could say, well, our newbies are having this type of problems, while the people that are more experienced are having a completely different experience. We use a really easy tool called Poly that allows you to send a survey in Slack, and people could just fill that in a few minutes. As part of those surveys, we will always include an NPS question. This is the idea of, are your users or customers happy to promote your platform? So you will remove the promoters on that right side, which is everybody that answered 9 and 10, and remove the detractors, which is everybody from 6 to the bottom. It's really interesting to follow these NPS scores over time and to try to understand what is happening in your platform. Why are people starting to like it more or less? One of the things that we also tried were customer love sprints. There is all this very important work that is always in front of you. You're prioritizing your backlog, but there are all these different features that maybe fall in that category of delighters that are going to make the life of your users so great, but you never get to do them. So we will always carve out a sprint every quarter to make sure that we will focus on those features that are going to make our users love our platform. And then we will share the result of that customer love sprint. Slack does that for the main product, and we copy that for the internal platform. The idea is you can bring all those good practices from the product engineering into the platform engineering space. The other technique that we use extensively, same thing, Slack uses it all the time, was dog fooding and the usage of feature flag. The idea is that you are the first consumer or the first user of your platform, and that your releases will take that into account. So you have a new feature, you will first release it to the platform team, you use it extensively, and then you start to release that. You have the power to choose some of those groups and decide who are you releasing your platform to. Then you have the opportunity to not piss off some important customers internally and to try to kind of find the bugs before they're in the hands of your users. So the idea is that you can pull the unknown core as early as possible without affecting your users. It's really important to try to advertise your features. One thing that we did it was to advertise those features in the product itself. We created this feature called debug actions, and nobody knew about it. We advertised in Slack. We did a few other things, and nobody found about it. So we started to build these big banners inside the product to tell people, hey, go and check this video or check this documentation about this new feature we launched. Another technique that we used was creating a user advisory group. These are the people that are going to help shape your platform. They're going to work with you in creating the platform. You will probably want to have some representatives from all the teams that are using the platform. As we talked before, someone representing those functional areas that are important to you. But two roles that I really like. a newbie and a detractor, someone that's never used the platform or is very new to your business, so you can work with them and understand this type of user, and someone that really hates your platform, someone that really wants you to fail, someone that wants to use completely different technology to what you are providing, that's really against that. So you can have that friction, and you can have those conversations as part of your user group. Your PM, your principal architects, and so forth. So we try this in different formats at REA. Next slide. At REA, we had the luxury of doing it in the physical wall, so we will all get together in a room, put a lot of the features in the wall, get everybody to explore those, have those conversations. At Slack, we run that, because we're a global team, we will run those on Zoom, and then we will always record the sessions and share them back to the community. We only accept one representative for each one of the teams to attend the meetings, but then we will share publicly everything that happened there, so people have transparency to understand what we are doing in the platform space. And this can be very formal and can sound like a very convoluted process, but there are other ways that you can do this.
Yeah, so in One Digital, and perhaps something that you can do in a less formal scale, is we have this thing called an EDR, so it stands for Engineering Decision Registry. It's essentially a space where people can put proposals against what they want to do with the platform. And it goes through like a group of people. They're composed of engineering leads that actually represent each squads. And they get to decide, what to do about this proposal. But I do agree that as you mature, it's very important to involve like a variety of people within that user advisory group, so you do get that different perspective.
One thing that's very important, and I think product engineering does a really good job at this, is to build analytics at the very beginning. There's a question that you need to be ready to answer. It's like, who is using your platform? Who's liking your platform? So when you build internal products, we will normally leave the analytics to the very end. We'll leave it to a point where they are not that useful to you, and you should be able to answer that question anytime. So I will recommend that you build your analytics early in your product. Another technique that you can use is value stream mapping to understand the different processes and the different steps that your users take in using your platform, and to try to optimize different parts of that. You're going to find ways that you can disrupt the way that your flows work, and then introduce products that will reduce the time it takes between the different steps. One way that we use this approach of analysis has been doing migrations. There's a set of steps that every team will have to take to go from platform A to go to platform B, and then we analyze all of that after some of those migrations occur, and try to attack those areas that are very difficult and take a long time, to try to reduce the burden to going from one platform to the other. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Leoren to talk about the engineering side of building platforms.
Yes, so I do have a bit more tips for you on the slightly more engineering side of things. So the first one is getting your customers to collaborate. So like I mentioned before, as your customers adapt to using your platform, they'll be very quick to recognize any bugs that may exist in your product, or any features that may exist, any features that they want to implement within your platform. So something that we do really well in One Digital is we actually allow our customers to submit a PR against our platform's internal repository. So this is really good because it tackles that pitfall where the platform team becomes a blocker. So when you allow your customers to submit a PR against your platform's internal repository, you kind of give them the chance to unblock themselves, right? They also help you make the platform better, because at the end of the day, they are the main users of the platform. So we always got to hear what they have to say, right? The second point is working in your customer's language. So this is really good for us to engage people into collaborating within our platform's repository, because we actually work on our customer's language. So to give you a bit of a background, CloudKit, our internal development tooling in One Digital, it's actually built using CDK with TypeScript. This meant that as a platform engineer, I needed to learn how to use TypeScript. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how to code. But like there was a lot of upskilling needed for the platform team to be able to write in TypeScript. But we found that it's a lot more worth it in the long run, in a way where our developers actually understand what's going on under the hood, what's going on in the platform. This also encouraged them to collaborate with us further because they know exactly what's going on under the hood, right? And that eliminates that pitfall where you create too much abstraction that people no longer understand how their application is being hosted. You'll find it that when you work with your customer's language, they'll be able to still have that even high level of understanding of exactly like how things are working under the hood. Third part is to celebrate adaptations and collaboration. So similar to Javier's Customer Love Sprint in Slack, in Australia Post and in One Digital, whenever people migrate over to using our platform, we do like a little bit of a shout out for them to encourage other people to do the same, right? And then not only that, in One Digital, we do a little shout out for all of our developers who help collaborate within our platform as well, so CloudKit. So you'll see these little screenshots here of us like giving a little shout out to some of our developers who submitted a PR and then helped us make a release with CloudKit. Next one is this thing called the 80-20 rule. So this is actually something that I learned when I was in Australia Post. And essentially it works like, and this helps in that pitfall where you can't possibly cater for everybody. And it works like this, right? So if a development team comes to you asking you to implement a feature within your platform, you try to triage them. Like you try to triage that feature. Would 80% of our users benefit on this new feature? If yes, then go ahead, implement it. But if they fall into that 20% category, then we ask them to seek out other alternatives. So this kind of prevents your platform from becoming too big that it becomes hard to support. And then it helps create that balance on how much feature requests are you going to take in within your platform. And lastly, what best way to get people on board to your product by teaching them exactly how to use it. So provide training. With that, I do have a couple more tips for you on how you can provide trainings within your organization. So something that we did in Australia Post is we recorded a bunch of training videos, teaching people exactly how to use our platform. So each feature, we have like a catalog that we put in our Confluence, and then developers, whenever they want to learn how to use that feature, they just go ahead and click that video, and then they can watch like on their own time exactly how to use it. Next one is having this thing called the temporary team embedded engineers. So how this works is you get a member of a platform team and you embed them in the development team for like a sprint or two. And their sole purpose of being in that team is to teach them exactly how to use your platform. Last one is bootcamps. So in One Digital, we also provide CloudKit bootcamps for our engineers. So it runs for half a day to the whole day. And we teach them exactly how to use CloudKit. This is really popular for our new engineering recruits. They always sign up. And then our teams are always happy to like run one of these for them. And lastly, we also provide like some self-paced training material. So we give out lab handouts. We teach people exactly how to use CloudKit in this lab handout. We even teach them like what CDK is. And this is something that, again, developers can take in their own time, and then they can work through the lab. Along with this, we also provide like an internal Slack channel that they can ask us questions. So if they get stuck on one of the steps, they can just ping us, and then we'll respond. So they wouldn't feel that they're alone. And that is all I have for you. So I'm going to hand it over back to Javier for a quick recap of everything that we've just talked about.
Let's recap. A good developer platform can make your development teams more productive and also happy. I think that's a very important part. The opposite holds true. There are many pitfalls in platform engineering, and we talk about some of those. And I think the answer to avoid most of those pitfalls is to treat your platform as a product, and we saw some of those techniques that you can use. And finally, we said some of the engineering tips that you can use to build your platforms more effectively. And with that, one of the best things about this conference is that there's a lot of discussion going on. Platform engineering is a really hot topic, but it's also a really spicy topic. So here's some prompts of things that we can talk about and that people in the internet are talking about. DevOps was about control and not pest, but platform engineering is about running less software. Sam Newman wrote an article about don't call it a platform. It's all about the outcome. If you focus in the platform, then you're going to focus on the means and not the outcome. John talks about how we should not call them customers. They're more partners. There are more people that are working with us. And lately, Andrew is talking about how stop calling it a product. It's not a product. Nobody is paying for it. Therefore, it can be a product. Apparently, he doesn't like sprinkles either. Anyway, looking forward to discuss with all of you in the open spaces, and I hope this session was useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.